Hi, we seem to be having a few internet problems today, so been down a couple of times here now, so apologies there. So let's try and get back to this understanding what your why is about, because what I want to talk about today is extremely important to the business. And why, sorry, we're having real internet problems this morning, just what we need. So apologies everyone, let's try and get this flow back. Understanding your why is so important. So if you see the diagram you're seeing on the screen now, you'll see that there's three segments to the why factor. So there's the why in the middle, which is the most important part of why you're in business and what you're doing, the how you do it and the what you do it. But lots of people get this very confused. So what I want to do today is actually run through how to really establish your why and do it better than the competition. That in its own right will give you much better opportunities in terms of getting out there and doing what you need to do. So how do you define your why? Well, your why is really built by your purpose, your cause and your belief. Why does your business exist? So if you're not understanding that right now, you really need to sit there and start to work on this. Now, I'm going to run through this today and I'm hopefully going to make it a lot easier for you. I've done lots of researching and digging on this for some time now myself, and I do believe we've really got into what I call the why factor and understanding it. So let's talk about the defining your why. So go back to the original diagram here of the what, how and why. You're going to work from the inside. So the inside is the why. Too many people actually work from the outside, and I'll show you how that affects your business. So you're working from the inside out. And here's the diagram just to show you a little bit of how people work. Now, if you're working from the outside and working back to your why, you're actually going to struggle to really define what your why is, because it's very easy to say, this is what we do, this is how we do it. And then people get a little bit lost coming back towards the middle. So look at the red arrow that you're seeing in the slide that I've drawn into the Facebook Live presentation here. And what you actually see is that working on the red arrow basis, it's very easy to say what we do. We build cars, they're great cars, and how does that work? Well, we build them in a factory and we send them out to you and we think you should buy one. Do you want to buy one? It doesn't really work that well. The great businesses and organisations know their why and work from the inner area of the circle. And actually, we know this as the golden circle. And this is really important to understand what the golden circle is about and how it relates. And I'll explain a little bit later into this, how it relates really with how brains work. And once you see the synergy between the golden circle and the process of working why, how and what from the inside out, you'll actually see where it connects with a lot of the process we do in terms of feeling, how we work with why we make decisions. So this is all going to come a little bit clearer as we move through. But the big thing I want to say right now is that if you're going to work from the outside in, you're going to struggle to define your why, because most people know what they're doing, they know how they do it, but they don't know why they're doing it. So let's define the why and work back out. So when you get the why actually defined particularly well, is that you're going to work to the how to the what, going back out, and you'll find that this will work much better for you. So how does the why work? I want to show an example here of how the why works. And there's certain businesses that do it extremely well. And one of those is Apple. They've really defined their why. So when we start to look at, say, people that are in the computer industry, let's take this completely as an example here. In terms of someone in the computer industry, let's say it's Dell compared to Apple. So really, if you get the messaging wrong and you're working, from the outside coming back in, which is the way not to do it, is that you might get someone saying, we make great computers. How? Well, they're designed well, they're simple to use and user friendly. Would you like to buy one? How does that really work? How does that make you feel? It doesn't really define their why. And this is where Apple have turned the whole process on its head. They've actually reversed the process. And this is very clever thinking. And this is where I've been looking and understanding what this really means in terms of getting your why correct and how it's going to change the results of your business. Because if we look at Apple, they're an extremely successful business. They've had the problems. Things haven't always gone particularly well. But what we do find is that Apple really know their why. So compare it to what I was just saying in terms of the top part there, that we make great computers. they're designed well, simple to use, user-friendly. Would you like to buy one? That could be a very standard computer company, and I put Dell in that particular class because for a long time that's how Dell were positioning themselves and going to market. There's a great big difference between Dell and Apple, even down to how people connect with those particular brands, and it's because of the why. So let's look at Apple's why. So everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. How do they do that? The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Would you like to buy one? The whole process works very differently, and that's because they understand their why. So they've worked from the inside out to understand what their why is, how they do it, and what they actually deliver as a product and service, and they're focused on the why. Now, the why is even more important within the business because actually everyone within Apple believes in that why. That's what they believe in. And the bigger part of this is the people that they sell to believe in the why of Apple, because it's very much my why. As a client or a customer, I've got to have the same sort of why and beliefs and values and purpose as the why of the business. That makes it a lot easier for me to connect with them and become a paying client. So you'll find that people with a Mac are very proud of their Mac. It's a bit of a status symbol. The reason there's the great big Apple sitting on the laptop on the outside is when you open that laptop, everyone can see that you're part of the Apple community. Your why is very defined with Apple's why. Are people particularly happy to open their laptops when it's an HP or a Dell? Are they proud of that brand and throwing it out there? For a long time, and this is really interesting, the Dell logo actually faced you while the laptop was closed. So when you opened it, the logo was upside down. So for everyone that could see you within Costa Coffee, an airport lounge, or wherever you may be, the logo was upside down. So what does that say straight away about understanding your why? Not particularly good. So hopefully you're now starting to understand where the why is going to impact on your business and why it is so important to understand your why. If you look at Volvo, say, as a car brand, they're very good in understanding their why. Their why is all about the safety aspects that they offer. Good build, one of the leading brands in terms of safety, security, comfort. What you don't see coming out from Volvo, and they do the odd, hot hatchback or wherever it may be out there, the little sportier versions, but you don't really see that focus because their why is really built on families, security, making sure that vehicle is of a great build, that your family's going to be secure in it should there be an accident. And that's the whole process of why they do their why the way that they do. So hopefully you're starting to see why the why is so important. Thanks, Steve. I'm glad you like that content about Dell, and it's really important to understand the relationship between companies, brands, and how they define their whys, because Dell actually went into the market of trying to do MP3 players and little pads and etc. in the early days, and actually they didn't nail the market because they didn't define their why. We look at Apple and look at the movements they've made within the music industry, creating the iPod, putting music down onto our phones now. The Apple Watch is continuous innovation built around the why, because the why is all about producing beautiful products to make our life a little bit easier, a little bit more enjoyable, and they're 25% more expensive in terms of what they produce most of the time, if not more, but people buy into it. And they're buying into the why because my why is the same as the Apple why. I'm an Apple user, and part of that process of me buying into Apple was that I believe in their why and the products that they do, and yes, I'm willing to pay more to have that experience. So that also shows us that price is not a determining factor in making decisions. The why is very important, and I'm going to explain how the why really kicks in and the way that this works. So let's move on a little bit. And again, as I said, everything that I'm showing you on screen, I will actually share a little bit later on. And what I want to define right now for you and make you really understand is that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Now, this is such an important factor, and it keeps leading back to the golden circle that I shared with you, and that central part of the why, and working from the inside to the out, not the outside to the in. When you're coming from the outside to the in, it's very easy to say, I'm a fitness trainer. That's what I do. How do I do it? You come to my gym and we lift weights, and you get better. Do you want to sign up? What is the difference in that? When you understand your why, it's more, well, I do this because I believe I can help you get fitter, stronger, be the person that you want to be. And actually, I can do that really quickly with you because I'm an expert at it. How do we do that? Well, you come to my great gym, you experience a great atmosphere, we work at the pace that works for you. And do you know what? Within weeks, you're actually going to see results from what we're doing. That is creating a great why. So Steve, I think that's very relevant to what you do, and I'm hoping you're starting to see the reasons about the why and why you need to define it, as every business does. So really start to look at the why, because when you've got the why, people will buy more into you, because they're not buying what you do. Because I can buy lots of motivational training, weight training, anywhere. But what I want to buy is why someone's doing it and they believe in it. Just excuse me, must get a glass of water. So, really important to understand that people buy, why you do it, not what you do. Start to get your head around the why. Really important that you're going to understand this why, because it will change results. Because when you get the why factor, what you actually start to do is lock into people that have got very similar why factors. And between themselves and you, there will be a greater synergy. And this works at a certain level, which I'm going to explain shortly with you. And you're going to see why the golden circle, and let's just revert back to the golden circle, because really important. I'm just going to open up another slide now, so the other one will stay with us. So let's just move things around a little bit here. Excuse me. So this actual golden circle that you see, the orange circles that you're seeing, actually connects with something very deep in terms of a biological setup of our brain, which I'm going to go into shortly, and I'll show you how it actually works. But what I want you to see right now is the golden circle and the three segments that it's built into. So, again, as I said, I will put these into PDFs and share them with you, but do understand the process here of the what, how, why, and where it sits within the circle, because this is so important, and it will actually become really clear when you understand and you visualize what you're seeing in terms of the what, how, why circles, the golden circle, in terms of how it connects with us as human beings. So let me start to talk through that particular process. So bear with me just a sec. So I'm trying to touch on this point of why this works, and it does get a little bit deeper at this point, and it works because of biology, not psychology, because of biology. And the reason it works because of biology is the way that our brains are set up. And when you go back to looking at what the golden circle is about, and again, as I said, I will share all this with you so you can slowly go through it, perhaps refer back to this particular broadcast, try and get some leads on what I'm talking about in terms of where things fit within the PDF of what I'll share and what I'm saying here live, is that when you actually understand that it's a biological process that we're actually getting ourselves aligned with, you're going to understand why the process of defining your why is going to make massive differences to what you do as a business. So let's start to talk biology. Now, I don't know if you can see this particularly clear. It's fairly small at the moment, but I've brought back into it. And again, as I said, I will share all this. So don't panic. What you're seeing here will be put into the page. What you're actually seeing here is the golden circle in terms of how your brain is set up. And the brain is set up. If we took a cross section, we would cut through the head right now, a bit nasty and messy, I admit, but if we would cut through the head right now and look down into your brain, we're going to see that it's built up of three sections. So we've got the outer section, which aligns with the what, which is the new brain, the neocortex, as we define it. And what the neocortex is about is really about language, is about being analytical, is about understanding at a very base level. It's where the information comes in, we process it, and we can respond to it fairly quickly. So it's the outer level of our brain, the neocortex there, that's going to work on an understanding level and really the language aspects of how we work day to day, visually, speaking, hearing, etc. The neocortex is going to take in that information. Where it gets interesting is the next two sections in, which is the limbic brain. You've got two sections there, but they're both part of the limbic brain. Now, the way that the limbic brain is working is that it's really starting to process that information and go a little bit deeper. So this starts to get into the area of feelings, emotions. It's really where we base the assumption that we say sometimes, I've got a gut feel for it. When you actually say that you've got a gut feel for it, you're not working at the outer level of your brain, the neocortex. You're going into the limbic part of the brain, which is all about, processing information and actually how you feel and how that reacts. Now, when we relate this back to, and let me just bring this up actually, I'm just going to move the screens around a bit, so do bear with me because it might get a little bit messy. Now, if you look at what's down in the bottom corner here, is that you're going to see the limbic brain, the neocortex, in relationship to the what, how, and why. If you were to overlay the two, the central part of the limbic brain, which is really where we're driven emotionally and making decisions from, aligns with the why. So this is where the biology comes into this process. So the limbic brain and the why are connected. And it's a biological process. It's natural. It's how we communicate. It's how we work in terms of taking on information and saying, yeah, do you know what? I really like that. I want to be involved in that. That works for me. I believe in that. And this is why the why is really important in your business. Get the why, connect with the inner brain of your clients who have the same beliefs, values, purposes, and you're actually going to connect your business with them a lot stronger. So I'm hoping now that you're seeing that this just isn't made up in terms of, this is some sort of assumption or crazy idea. This is factual. This actually works. And there's been a lot of research into this. And, I've spent some time lately, slowly understanding this and how it's working. Because when you dig deeper and you understand how the brain's working, how businesses deliver the why, you will see that the connection is so strong it will change how people perceive your business, what you're about, why you exist, what is your purpose, because that's what it's about. People buy into your why. They don't buy what you do. You really must get your head around that and start to change the process of how you do your business and what the messaging is. And when you understand your why is going to affect, again, your marketing, the messages that you use in marketing. It was only yesterday that I was working with a client and just working on this process that, I'm making stronger and stronger in terms of what I do. And I'll explain towards the end how I see my why. And I think why people work with me, because my why connects with their why, and we do business and it all comes together. And I believe that is why we are having results that we have, which is more clients, more business, great results with those clients, because we're very aligned. But, when we start to look at the words that we use, I wrote a sentence yesterday for a client, and it was very much based on what I believe that client's why to be. And when I delivered that message, it was quite interesting because I'd never done the process with the client before. He came back and he said, I love that messaging. Absolutely love it. Because I know in his heart that's his why. So what I delivered to him in terms of the way that we should be speaking about the business in a particular advert and promotion hit straight away with that central part of his limbic brain, which is where his feelings and emotions are. And then obviously he feels strongly about his business. He believes in his business in a certain way. So I knew that those words would resonate, would be part of his why, and great reaction straight away. He came straight back, love it, love it. And I believe that if we use that with the client base, that messaging will increase the results that we're looking for from a particular promotion. So this shows you how strong this is. And I've started to use it more and more and really look into my why and push that. And again, I've seen results. So, we go back to last week where I was talking about understanding your ideal clients. And if you missed that last week, the video still sits here from that Facebook Live. Watch it. The actual worksheet is still available for you to understand your ideal clients. Once you understand that ideal client and you get your why right, you can start to target really strong messages to the ideal clients who should be in line with your why and should be drawn more to you. And what are you going to do? You're not going to sell what you do. You're going to really push on your why. So the big thing to take away from this particular live broadcast is how to define your why. So start to think purpose, cause. What do you believe in? Why have you set the business up? Why do you get out of bed every day to do what you do? That is really important. If you haven't defined that, then you are going to struggle in terms of actually being productive individually as a business owner and getting the results that you actually want. So I really sort of call on you to work with this process and understand your why. And I found it quite interesting when I put into this particular group page, the digital discovery page, that I was going to do this session and talk through it. And I asked a few people to tell me what their why was. And what I found is that most people made statements. I see words like, I'm passionate about what I do. Well, passionate is a feeling, which is great. It could connect with some of the why, but it'd be much better to tell people why you do it. I believe that I do this, or I do change the status quo because I achieve this. It's much better to understand your why rather than make a statement of we're unique, we're passionate, we do this much better than anyone else. Because my first question is going to be, why do you do that better than anyone else? Why do you state you're passionate? Because if you don't know your why, it doesn't connect with me. And that particular statement that I read that had the word passion in it, unique, we're determined, or whatever it is that people sometimes use in actually delivering what they think their business does, just didn't resonate with me. And that was really about a confused why. So understand the why of your business, and you will see differences in how you communicate and people communicate back with you. Because I just found that so interesting that someone stated this whole unique, passionate sort of phrase to me, and it just left me cold. I was just thinking, no, that's not what you do. You haven't discovered your why. Now, I'm sure the person that I'm talking about understands that, and I want them to work on their why, because they're also a really passionate person about their business. I know that, but what is the why? Why do you get out of bed? Why do you do it? Why do your clients really want to work with you? That's what you need to define. So start to understand the why links with a biological process of how your brain works and makes decisions. When you're basing stuff on gut feelings, it's working in the limbic brain area. And, we do use this term, okay, gut feel for it. It's really strong. There's probably decisions, things that we've done, and you've gone back and said, well, I had a gut feel for that. I should have done it differently, or I shouldn't have done it, or I should have done it and I've missed out. So, start to understand how strong this process is of how you work biologically, how the gut feels work, and how your why will resonate with other people's why. You're not going to be connecting with everyone, because not all of us have the same whys. Not everyone wants to buy an Apple Mac and doesn't buy into the why of Apple. But Apple are a very successful business. The why is very defined, and you will find that any business that has a really strong why is very successful, is very strong in the marketplace. It's all about understanding why you're doing what you're doing, what the purpose of the business is, and what the cause is. I really want you to focus on that type of understanding to get to your why. And if you're struggling to determine what your why is, just post into the group page, talk to me, and let's see if we can work on it. Because it's always good to get an outside view, but at the heart of your why should be you. You should know why you're doing it, and why you're getting out of bed, and why you're trying to make money from doing what you're doing. And this, whole process of making money is not what a why is about. I don't have a business because I want to make money. That's not the why. If I look at, say, my why, so let's determine a bit about my why. I believe that I create much better results for my clients by challenging what they're doing with the experience and knowledge I have to take them forward at an accelerated pace. That for me is very much my why. My why is I can help you do that, and I believe I can do that because I have the knowledge and experience. So understanding your why is really important, and what I find is that I have people gravitate towards me who have a strong why of wanting to develop their business and be different, challenge the normality of what they may be in their marketplace. And that's what we work on. Once we determine those whys, things really come together. So discover that why you're doing it, what your purpose and cause is, and things will change. So please start to think about this. And what I want to do right now is just share with you an interesting story of how the why actually changed an outcome, and something quite dynamic within the whole process of history, and that changed the way we travel and what we do. And I want to just show you a couple of guys here. So, well, actually 3 guys. What we've actually got here, and I don't know if anyone recognises these straight away, and I don't expect you to, but the whole process of why determined the outcome of what these guys were working on. So, on the left here, we have Samuel Pierpont Langley. He was quite a notable character, American, in the day, quite a high-ranking person in the social circles, government connections, doing particularly well, astronomer, was a man of knowledge and influence at that particular time. And he had a passion to fly. But the other 2 guys that had a passion to fly were the Wright brothers. Now, Orville and Wilbur. Now, the Wright brothers had a very different why to what Samuel's was. Samuel wanted to be famous. Samuel wanted to be noticed. Samuel wanted fame, fortune, and all the things that went with it. And he built a team around him who was focused on getting him to that goal. They weren't focused on what the why was of the project. They were actually focused on trying to help Samuel achieve what he wanted, and in return he would pay them. So the focus was very different for Samuel than it was for the Wright brothers. The Wright brothers were focused on a why. They wanted to change the world. We want to create something that's going to make a difference to how we travel. How can we do that? They had no money. Samuel was invested by other people. Other business owners were throwing money at him. And, in the day, in the late 1800s, early 19th century, Samuel was being thrown sums like $50,000, which was huge amounts of money for his project. And that money was being consumed into trying to make the aeroplanes test and so on. But Samuel's focus was really all about him. The Wright brothers, on the other hand, had no money thrown at them. All they had was a real desire to actually deliver on their why, and their why was to give something back to all of us which would change the way that we travelled. That was their why. And the people that actually helped the Wright brothers had the same focus. They weren't getting paid. They were just trying to make a difference and get these guys into the air and be part of something that would change the dynamics of how we travel. What's really interesting is who do you think got into the air first? Well, I think it was 1903, 17th of December, somewhere around that time. I'm sure that's the date that the Wright brothers actually flew. I think it was for 53 seconds. They actually got into the air, and I think they flew 4 times that particular day. But they got into the air. So with all the challenges that they had, but focused on their why they were doing it, and they got out of bed every day because they wanted to get into the air and find a way to do it. They got into the air and they flew. What happened to Samuel? Well, he didn't get into the air as quickly as the Wright brothers. They were ahead of him on the curve. Now, what did Samuel do when the Wright brothers flew and started the process quicker than him? He actually walked away. He called it a day. Why? Exactly. Why? Because he didn't have a why. He was focused on himself. He was focused on actually achieving fame, fortune, and notoriety by being the first person in the air, where the Wright brothers were there to make a difference and show us that we could go into the air and change the dynamics of how we travel. They became very successful, and they were big aviators, the Wright brothers, and the fame and the riches followed, but that wasn't their focus. Samuel disappeared back into the background and did what he'd always done, which was being an astronomer, a man of education, knowledge, government connections, etc. So it just shows you how strong the why can be, not just on a business level, but on a level of actually achieving a focus that you have, a task that you want to do. Why are you doing that task? Why are you getting out every day of your bed, to actually go off and do the business that you do and focus on the things that you do? So get your why established, because what you will actually find is that this process is so important to your success. And when we look at something like, Samuel Pierpont Langley, and we look at the Wright brothers, it's interesting that this is such a proven case study in terms of what the focus was and what the lack of the why actually meant in terms of who succeeded, who didn't, and who went on to actually achieve what they'd set out to do, focused on their why, not on fame, fortune, and money. Because all the time I see far too many people, and we go back to the golden circle here and understanding how it works, is that people are focused on what they do and how they do it, and they lose the why. It becomes too fuzzy, too hard for them to define, and I don't think it particularly is. And what happens is that when you're in that what process, so if we look at Samuel, who wanted to be fame and fortune, is what did he want to do? He wanted fame, he wanted fortune. How was he going to do it? By getting people to work with him, who he paid to get him into the air, to get him his fame and fortune. He'd forgotten his why. He couldn't actually get to the inner circle. And this is why we start at the inner circle and we work our way out to define what our why is. Then we start to talk about our how, and our what starts to come afterwards. And just, it does sit on the outside. So if you're going to really move things forward with your business, start to focus on your why. If you're struggling with the process, talk to me. But I think if you spend some time, make some notes. There's really easy ways of doing this. And as I said, I'll put all this into a PDF format and add it as a document to the group page. But if you're going to work on your why, start to really think about, why do you get out of bed every morning? What is your purpose, your cause? What is the reasons you're doing what you're doing? Excuse me. That is really important. Once you understand this and you're really focused on your why, you're going to find that the dynamics of you as an individual, how the business works, really starts to change. And for me, that is really important, and it's been a game changer for me. I understand my why more than ever. Your why will determine who you work with and who you don't work with, because if your whys are not aligned, there's no point working with someone. It won't work for you, because there just isn't, you're not congruent. So you don't align. You go off at different angles, and this is where you have some challenges with particular clients. I've got one client we've just come into the end of a project with, and to be honest with you, it's been a real task, and our whys are not working. We're producing what we need to produce for that particular client, and we will just move away from each other because the whys are not aligned. They're not understanding what their why is. And this is the thing for me. I work with clients to make them understand their whys, to achieve the results that they want to do and move their businesses forward through a process of digital business development. But the challenge is that if I can't get to your why, I can't define what I need to do in terms of how we market, grow you, what the messaging is. And your why is really important in terms of, if there's just you, then it's your why. But if you've got a team around you, that team has to buy into the why and understand the why and live by the why. And you will find that, Apple is so successful because not only do customers buy into the why, the business believes by a why, the employees follow the same why. Everyone's bought into the why factor, and this is why it works. So the word why is so strong, and I'm hoping that you're seeing from the process of the golden circle how that works, of the how, the why, the how, and the what, and working your way from inside to out is so important. And when you actually understand that, the differences it's going to make to your business. So I'm hoping that you found this one particularly interesting today. Sorry, we've had a few internet connections. It's been up and down a little bit today, and that can happen. Half term, so no doubt there's plenty of kids up early on their Xboxes and PlayStations, stealing out very valuable broadband as business owners. But there again, they've got to have their fun, and that's their why. Their why is to get out of bed and play games. And as we grow in age and thought processes, knowledge and experience, our whys will change. So I'm hoping you found this really interesting. Sorry for the internet connections and coming and going. Bit distracting for me as it is for you. I will add into the page the PDFs that relate to what I've gone over today. So if you do have any questions, come back to me on the page, post in what you need to do. And next week, we're really going to start to focus on how to do a 90-day plan and really start to get your business moving forward. Because by now, if you've been with me last Thursday and you're with me today, you're going to find that we've now established ideal clients. You're going to work on what the why of your business is, and then let's start to plan what we're going to do next, because now we're sort of loaded with our ideal client, and we're understanding our why. It's a pretty powerful machine, just those two aspects. But if you don't have a plan and you don't have a 90-day plan and you don't know where you're going over the next 90 days and what you're going to implement and do, nothing will change. Plans sit at the heart of everything that we do for clients. So you understand your ideal clients, you're starting to understand your why. Let's get you on the road to having a really strong plan and moving you forward. This has been Terry Carney. I look forward to seeing everyone again next Thursday. Give me questions in the meantime on the page. Contact me, terry@salesremedy.co.uk if you want to email me. Just keep in touch and let's make sure that we keep you on track. The Take Action Academy is here to do exactly that, to get you to take action, to change things within your business and get better results. That's what I'm here to do. This is completely free, the Facebook Live broadcasts. I work with clients on a one-to-one basis, and obviously that's where I make my living and where my why sits, because my why is to make sure that I deliver my experience and knowledge to help them change the dynamics of their business, which I totally believe is what I'm here to do, and clients that buy into it believe it too, and we all get great results. So I'm going to talk with you very soon. Have a great week. Have a great end to the week, because we're nearly there. It's Thursday. Weeks fly. That's the other thing why we have to plan, because weeks fly, and before we know it, 2018 would have been and gone. And are we going to change this year? Are we going to get better results than last year? Well, if you follow this information, if you stick with me and you do some of what I'm saying, if you do all of what I'm saying, you're going to see massive results. But if you can stick with me and do some of what I'm covering here, you will get different results. So speak to you all very soon, and have a great time. Go and get lots of sales. Keep in touch, and I'll talk with you next Thursday on Facebook Live. Thank you. Bye.